good for you. Good job in being courageous, enough to take that stand. So, okay. So you leave the gig. Mm-hmm. What happens next?
My kids were very small when I did that. My second son was 2, and I had my kids really close together. So I think they were both under 5 when that happened. So I was home for a while. My husband and I had been doing a certificate course in real estate sales, kind of just for the fun of it, to get us both out of the house to do something together, because his family he has a background in land development and property management. Nice. So we had been doing that. And so I completed that certificate with him maybe a few weeks after I resigned. So I kind of worked with him to build out the logistics of a real estate division for his company, but then got bored doing that, because the pace of real estate here, if you don't live near the capital, is very slow. It's not at all what it would be like with you guys. So I got bored quickly. So I, again, probably ahead of time, I turned to looking for something online to do. So I ended up doing some economic tutoring. I would design and develop the tutoring material for a company that was doing private tutoring for kids in Ivy League schools like Columbia University and stuff for you guys.
Okay, so you were working with schools in the US, you were just working from Trinidad. Okay.
Yep. So then I had been doing that for a few months, I think. And then I saw on another online job market an ad it was phrased as a mortgage officer and mortgage and financial officer or something. I think that's what it was called. And I said, well, I just came out of real estate stuff, so maybe that would be kind of a parallel I could work.
Sounds like a bridge, right? Yeah.
But so when I go in, first thing was that it was in the building office for the major insurance company that I work for here. So I'm like, well, why would they be meeting there? Only to realize that, as you will know, people have a stigma to the title of insurance agent or insurance salesman. They don't want to say that's what they do out loud, and they have trouble trying to recruit a lot of times if they say, well, do you want to come and sell insurance? So that's why the job had been advertised as mortgage officer, because the company I work for also does mortgages. So I can also sell mortgages, and then I can insure the property that you're buying. I can do both, but they put that one up front. So when I went and sat down, and they started talking about, well, how the compensation structure works and how much you can make, and how the work hours are what you make it. What works for you is what you choose to do. So I sat and I was thinking about it. I came back home. I talked it over with my husband. He's like, well, what do you want to do? Whatever you want to do, I'm going to support you. He's fabulous for that.
That's awesome.
The decision to come in really came down to, again, it was a personal thing with one individual, the person who became my immediate supervisor, my unit manager. It was that I had a good rapport with her. And I asked her flat out, well, money aside, whatever people can make or not make doing this, why do you do it? Why do you enjoy it? And she said, because what I do, I know it benefits people. So I told myself, well, this is something that I'm going to learn to do. And what you put in is what you get out in terms of how much you make for yourself at the end of the day. Then, well, what's the next thing that matters? If it's time that I'm going to spend away from my family, I need to know that it benefits another family, and that will be good enough.
That's right. And lo and behold, it benefits another family and it benefits your family, right? Because it does. Right. It takes care of both. So I want to touch on a couple of things, and that was 5 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Nice. So one thing that you mentioned was when you were in college, mm-hmm. and you had a job when you were on the phones, you were doing some telemarketing work, yep. And you said, hey, that gave me a skill of just being on the phones. That's something that in our business is very important. If you're, regardless of the segment that you're in, because if you're doing life insurance, you're calling the clients, you're calling the leads that you have. If you were in P&C, you got to call and do quotes and get those things done. If you're in employee benefits, you're calling on the businesses. How do you, I know you said that aided you, now in your business, but what is that, how important do you think that skill is to have for someone who is entering, this industry?
It's absolutely important, because when you start, you don't have clients existing already who you can call up as a friend and say, hey, can I talk to your brother? Can I talk to your business partner? You don't have existing clients giving your number to people to recommend you. When you start, you have to make your own connections. And this is COVID. You can't go pounding the pavements like they used to 20 years ago to build those connections and get those clients. You have to be on the phone. So you have to be confident.
Were you nervous? I mean, now at this stage, when you started in the insurance industry, did that come back up and say, oh yeah, I remember, I could do this? Did that come out like that, or were you nervous? Or
I was nervous, I think, when I started it, but it wasn't nervous about being on the phone. It wasn't nervous about calling up a stranger. The reason I was nervous was because it took a little time for me to get over the stigma, the stereotype that people have about having an insurance agent and a salesperson contact them. I had to get to the point where I can, if somebody asks me, oh, so you sell life insurance? And I can just say, yes, I do, and be proud of that and be comfortable with that. Then you're not nervous on the phone anymore.
That's an interesting point, with that stigma. We talked a little bit about some of that, before we, started recording even, but the perception in some cases is that, oh, well, this is a life insurance person, or they just want to take my money. Yeah. But the reality is, once you actually get into the business and you're having these conversations, you realize how important it is, how important what you do actually is, and that people want to know what's available to them, right? So how did you get past? Go ahead. How did you get past that, and then share some insight on that?
Well, I think it goes away that that sense of being kind of embarrassed, because you know that you're going to come up against that stigma that people have from the stereotype. So it kind of goes away gradually, just because you force it, because you fake it till you make it and keep making the calls. For one. Then as your sales start to come in, as your client portfolio starts to build, you start to realize, okay, I can do this. Then it goes away a little bit more. But there's a thing they say here for sure, probably where you guys are too, is that as an insurance agent, especially as a life insurance agent, you see and you feel the value of what you do when you pay your first death claim. And funnily enough, that really happened for me just 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
So, and it was the first time I had a significant claim that had to go in. And it was the type of client who I had to have a relationship with, and knew both of them. It was the husband who died. And he died in an accident. It was completely unexpected and out of the blue. And when she called me, and I couldn't believe it, I was floored. This type of client. So I went to the funeral as well. It's not just a business transaction. And when I saw this widow walking behind the casket, head to toe black, I don't know where she found the strength in the moment, but it's a feeling I cannot describe, and it would not be understood by anyone who's not in the industry. The pride and the comfort of knowing that everyone else who was there at that funeral, they can give her words, they can take a meal over, but there's no one else there who can do for her what I will do for her.
That's right. You kind of know that the decisions that you helped her make, and her husband make, at least, can't bring him back, but it at least made the financial hardship lessen. Yeah. You can see everything that they're doing, that you're a part of that you really contributed to that. That is, that's really powerful, to share and to think about, the other part about that you mentioned is the fact that, you develop a relationship with clients. So as you're, not only are you adding this value to them from a standpoint of the product, with the policy, but you're also getting to meet and engage these people and form real bonds. You become a part of their lives. So what is that really like? What is that meant to you? What is that aspect of the business meant to you?
It makes what I do more than work. I'm not just filling out paperwork. I'm not just going into an office on business wear and clocking hours. Everything that I do, everything that's on my to-do list for the day has a name attached to it and a name with a relationship there, where I know this is a critical illness insurance policy for this client, and it matters to them that it gets sorted out properly because her mom died of cancer before she was 50. So this is important for her. Or there's an endowment policy and I need to get it sorted out and back on the books because his kid is going to be ready for school in 10 years. And I know him. He does coding with the same people my kids do coding with. There's a connection to every single task on your to-do list.
Yeah. I think that's one of the more underrated, parts of this business is the relationships, because even with companies, right? Like when they're recruiting, a lot of times they show the numbers, right? If you make this amount of calls, you're going to, close. If you make this amount of calls, you'll set this amount of appointments. And if you set this amount of appointments, you'll close this amount of business.
Numbers game.
Right. Right. But, I think what's missed a lot of times, are the relationships that can be established, that last for years. Like you said, you're working with people who, you're putting things in place for their children, right? So you're meeting them when their children are school age, your kids' age. By the time they're going to college, you're like, wow, I've known you guys for 10 years, 15 years, and you're a part of that experience. So that's a very strong point that you make as well.